Permissions I needed.
Welcome everyone to the second webinar in a series on steps to developing co-ops. So this follows our introductory one that was led by Margaret Bao, which was a general overview on the co-op development process. And now we're getting into some specific models. I'm going to ask our participants to mute themselves if they are not speaking. And we're going to continue this series throughout the year, so you can stay tuned for that. Before, I needed to choose a channel. So before we launch into this webinar, we do have English interpretation.
Empezar este webinar, tenemos interpretación inglés-español.
I'm going to let the interpreters explain how to get into the correct rooms.
El intérprete va a decir cómo hacer eso.
Steve, I am not one of the interpreters at this moment, but I will let you know how to access interpreting, which is at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little globe that says interpretation, and you can choose your channel, English or Spanish. Please, if you are an English speaker, do use the English channel. It's good practice because we want to encourage two-way communication. Yo soy Steve, no estoy interpretando en esta reunión, pero estoy presente para ayudar a los que lo necesiten. La manera en que se usa la interpretación es que al fondo de la pantalla se ve un globito que dice interpretación y ahí se puede hacer clic y escoger su idioma preferido. De esa manera va a poder escuchar la interpretación y estamos pidiendo que la gente que hable inglés también use el canal para que la comunicación sea bidireccional. Muchas gracias.
And I need to say something else. You need to mute original audio also at the same place, because otherwise it won't work. Did anyone hear me on the English channel? But apparently other people didn't, and you need to mute original audio so this won't work otherwise. Alex, did you hear me?
Yeah, did you say I needed to mute?
Yeah, where you chose English, there's also an option to mute original audio. You need to do that for the channels to work well, okay? Thank you so much.
I just understood that. Thank you so much.
Right. It takes a while.
Yeah. Growing pains of expanding our offerings. Is everyone in a language room now? Wonderful. We'll go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for attending the second in our series. So this webinar is going to focus on the ROC USA model, which has been tremendously successful in scaling up to a national level over the last little more than a decade or so, but we have plenty of experts that are going to present for you that can talk more about this housing co-op model. And I am going to pass it off to our panelists now to introduce themselves as we launch in to the webinar. So thanks so much, and we'll start with Annik.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Annik Paul, and I'm the Vermont State Manager for the New England Resident-Owned Communities Program with the Cooperative Development Institute. That's a mouthful. And I will pass it off to Julie.
My name is Julie Massa, and I'm the ROC USA Network Training and Collaboration Manager. And I just wanted to say hi to everybody. In 2019, I was able to complete all 3 Cooperation Works trainings, and it's benefited me greatly. So thanks.
Mary, we can't hear you. Did you do the English button and then the mute original audio?
Mary, it's at the bottom of the screen. Mary, it's at the bottom of the screen. You have the option to choose English and then mute original audio. You have to do both at the same time.
Okay.
We hear you now. Oh, now you're muted on this one.
Right. Can I try again? Is that good?
Perfect.
Am I right? Okay. Thank you. So I'm Mary O'Hara with ROC USA Network. I work with both Annik and Julie and Carol, who I'm gonna just pass this to. I am the one running the PowerPoint, so please bear with me as I get the shared screen thing correct and get people back so they can see one another as well. So there you are. Carol, you want to introduce yourself? Carol's on mute also. So she may, Carol, try unmuting first. So she thinks she is unmuted. So Carol, I found this down at the bottom of the screen. You'll see a little something that looks like a world, a little world down there. And if you click on that, it says English or Spanish, and you click on the English and then unmute, and maybe you can be heard.
But also mute original audio, Mary and Carol. Otherwise it won't work.
Okay, so, but it looks.
Can you hear me now? I'm Carol Hodgkins, and I am president at the Wardtown Mobile Home Cooperative in Freeport, Maine. I am also the co-chair of the Outreach and Education Committee and part of the ROC Association. And I don't know who I send it to from here.
Well, I see Bobbie is just coming from work. Bobbie, we're just doing introductions. I'm not sure if Bobbie will be able to manage this translation thingy, but Bobbie, try it. See if we can hear you. No.
No.
We can't hear. We can see you, and now we can hear you. Great. You just have to say who you are.
I'm not hearing anything. Am I the only one?
I suspect that she has maybe not chosen the English language room yet.
Yeah, possibly.
I can hear.
Can you tell her the instructions, Mary, again, please?
Okay, Bobbie, if you can hear me, first mute yourself, and then on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little world. It looks like a little globe. And if you click on that, it has English or Spanish. And if you choose English and then unmute yourself, you'll be in the English world. And it may be hard to do on a phone.
Do you want it?
I can hear you. Carol can hear you.
I can't hear her.
Annik, can you hear her?
No.
Oh, it's a little different on the phone links.
I think that perhaps we can come back to Bobbie when it's her turn to present, and we can just launch into the presentation to start with, and hopefully that'll give her some time to work out.
But she can also mute her audio, her original audio on the phone. There's an option to do that. So she needs to do it for this to work.
Okay, Bobbie, we're going to give you a minute to get settled, and we're going to start. So stay on, and then we'll figure that out. How's that? Thank you.
Mary, you want to bring the slideshow up?
Yes, indeed. So are people seeing the right one?
Yep.
Terrific. Well, welcome. We've already done that. We've already done our introductions in grand fashion. So thank you for inviting us to put on this presentation. Here is our understanding of the goals of this session. And if there's something different, we have timed it out that we'd take 45 minutes for the presentation piece of each member of the panel. Together will be 45, and then we'll still have 45 for questions. So I know we're a little behind, so we'll keep that in mind as we go through. But please, if you do have other goals and questions and things that you would like to know, please jot them down as we go through, and we will absolutely try to address everything in the Q&A. So we're going to give you a quick view of the creation of a resident-owned community under the ROC model from the cooperative developer's point of view. So Annik is a cooperative developer with the Cooperative Development Institute, and she's really going to run through the kind of presentation that she does for a group of homeowners in a mobile home park who are deciding whether or not to form a co-op and buy their community. Then Julie's going to focus on the limited equity cooperative model that ROC USA uses and is committed to in these resident-owned communities. She'll go through the details of that. I will do a quick introduction of the ROC USA business model, which supports ongoing technical assistance and training and coaching for these new co-ops as they come into being around the country. And Carol and Bobbie are here to give the view of resident ownership from a co-op leader's point of view. They're both on the boards of their resident-owned communities and both have been for quite some time, as well as being members of the ROC Association Outreach and Education Committee. So they make presentations regularly on the ROC Association and the role of the Outreach and Education Committee. So that's our plan, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Annik.
Thanks, Mary. So you might ask, what is a ROC? ROC stands for Resident-Owned Community. And what will happen is a park will go up for sale, and we'll work with residents to discuss their options. Before we get into that though, we have this little video that we'd like to show you. It's just about 1.5 minutes or so long. And it does a basic overview of what is a ROC.
If you're like most people who own a home in a manufactured home community, you don't actually own the land underneath. This exposes you to potential rent increases year after year, with lot fees going towards someone else's profit. You might even lose your right to live there if your community gets sold for redevelopment, and you may have few or no viable options. And that's exactly why hundreds of communities are turning to a proven model of land ownership: resident-owned communities. That's where residents purchase their communities at fair market value, becoming the new owners through what's called a co-op or cooperative structure. They make decisions through their membership and an elected board of directors. Residents also set their own lot fees and put revenues back into community improvements. In fact, resident-owned communities are proven to increase lot fees at far lower rates than commercially owned communities. Learn more and take the first steps toward turning your neighborhood into a resident-owned community with ROC USA and its national network. ROC USA, making resident ownership a reality nationwide.
Thanks, Mary. So I work for the Cooperative Development Institute, and we're a CTAP, or a Certified Technical Assistance Provider, with the ROC USA network. And what happens is when a community will come up for sale, the residents will either, depending upon where they are in the state, will be reached out to come to meet with the residents to discuss what the options are. Specifically, a co-op option. And so this does vary state by state. And what we're doing is coming into the residents just to let them know what would it look like for them to explore this opportunity. In the states that we work with, there are 6 that require noticing of residents when a park comes for sale. However, the majority of the states require a willing seller, and that includes a lot of market development work that happens even before a park will come for sale. Since I know Vermont well, I might refer to some of the things that we do here. And there's a third option in Vermont, which is to have a nonprofit purchase a community as well. Historically, when we would, before CDI started working in Vermont about 10 years ago, we would see that residents would choose this nonprofit model because there wasn't anyone there to help them facilitate this conversion. But once CDI came into Vermont and started working here and showed up to these residents' meetings, there has been 100% selection of the ROC model over nonprofit ownership. And so we're just seeing this trend more and more that residents are interested in seeing their communities go with the ROC model. Would you just move the slide forward? Thank you, Mary. So the first thing we're always asked is, how does this work? And like, what's the catch? And how much money am I going to have to put in? And there's always a lot of anxiety when a park comes up for sale, because it really means that the residents have no idea what's going to happen to their future. What folks don't often understand about manufactured housing communities is predominantly we're talking about homeowners, folks who own their home, but they rent the lot in which their home is sited. This puts them at risk for losing their home, because oftentimes these homes aren't movable. And if a park were to close, they'd have to relocate and also relocate their home. The ROC model provides some stability of ownership. And so what we'll be talking about here is, how does it work? And that's one household, one vote. These folks will incorporate their communities as a corporation with the state that they're in, registering a federal tax ID number and becoming an entity. And then what we're asking is that the folks that during the acquisition phase, they have the right to explore this opportunity before purchasing. The members would vote to elect a board of directors. Those board of directors would deal with the day-to-day operations. In the early phase, that includes doing a 2-part process, which is one, the real estate side of the transaction. So doing all of the due diligence work, including appraisals, property conditions, building out their pro forma. They'll also do organizational development, creating their governing documents, including their rules, their bylaws, their leases, and all of the forms that they're going to need to run their organization. And then throughout the process, the members have the opportunity to continue to vote on whether or not they want to move forward with this. So the members would see the final results of all of the research and work that had been done in the early stages of feasibility. Part of that includes serving on the board, serving on committees, showing up to vote when necessary, and then also being a part of a greater network. And that includes trainings from peer-to-peer work, attending regional gatherings. The certified technical assistance providers will also provide trainings, as does the ROC USA Network. So there's a lot of opportunity here for the residents to build their skills, to learn how to operate their multi-million-dollar business once they take ownership of that. Next slide, please. This is the question everyone wants to know. You know, how are we gonna buy this community? You know, oftentimes parks are 1 million, 12 million. It's a lot of money. So when we're talking about folks who are low to moderate income, raising money to purchase a community, it sounds almost impossible. But ROC USA has provided a model in which 110% of financing up to the appraised value is available, so folks can not just purchase the community, but they can cover these due diligence costs and the closing costs, and also be set up so that on day one of taking ownership, they're ready to run their business. So they will have a little bit of money in their operating account. They'll have money set aside in a reserve account so that they can do any capital improvements that had been identified throughout this due diligence period. We also work with local lenders and other CDFIs to find the best packages for the communities that are available. The big piece here is that no individual is really at risk because this is a corporation that's been formed and the members own a share in the corporation. And so it's not based on the individual's credit or their ability to pay, but it really is based on the corporation and that structure. The lot rent is basically what is charged to each homeowner to have their home in the community, and that lot rent covers the mortgage as well as all the other expenses that it costs to run the community. So what's benefits here, the co-op versus a private owner, is that the co-op is only charging the residents what it costs to operate the community. There isn't enormous profits being made here and lining someone else's pocket so that they can go on vacation. This is really an investment in the community made by the community. So even with this co-op model, the structure hasn't changed in terms of who owns the land. The land is owned by the co-op, the corporation, not the homeowners. But they do then have a perpetual right to occupy based on the lease agreements and the way the co-op model is formed. So it becomes a little bit more stable than this prior private investment ownership, because now they have a little bit more protections in place so the park isn't just sold out from underneath them. In addition to the mortgage payment, the lot rent also covers your taxes, all of your regular operating costs, utilities, plowing. It also covers property management. This is the key to success, which is having a good support network in place for the board of directors and the residents to operate and manage their community. And so with property management, they will help support the board to do their day-to-day operations, dealing with vendors, dealing with resident issues, and letting the board really just focus on the main aspects of community engagement and running their community. This slide is a little flow of the deal that we use to help residents understand the process of the acquisition phase. oftentimes pre-purchase phase or the due diligence phase or acquisition phase. And this is particular to Vermont. So we have a little bit extra time to do this work than majority of states. So it does look like it's a pretty good amount of time here mapped out, but that's unusual just because we have that extra time in Vermont. So the residents at first will determine whether or not they want to explore this option. If a majority of the residents are interested in doing that, it's no risk to them to explore this option. We do ask them to join as members. And with that, they then can start voting on decisions, including electing a board of directors, determining who will do all of the feasibility studies, the due diligence of the property conditions, appraising, etc. The members will periodically be voting throughout the process to keep it moving, whether or not based on all the information that's gathered at that time. So the interim board will work with the CTAP provider or someone from my organization to develop all of their organizational documents. They'll do a business plan. They will hire their property management company, and they'll apply for all of their financing. But the real key piece here is that right up until the last minute, the members have the right to decide whether or not they want to move forward. So the goal of doing all of these feasibility studies is to come up with the pro forma, which will give the final lot rent number. How much is it going to cost for the residents to purchase their community and operate it as a cooperative? And really, after we've determined that, we can just see, is this an affordable option? Does this still maintain affordability? The residents will have that final vote to purchase based off of all of the research that has been done throughout this phase. And then, of course, once they close, they own it. And day one, they begin operating their community. The certified technical assistance providers continue to work with these communities throughout the length of their loan with the contract that we execute between the two of us. So we'll continue to provide training, coaching, and guidance throughout their ownership, helping them through annual meetings, helping them through challenging issues that they may have, and also continuing their learning so that they're ready to pass the torch to the next group of leaders in their communities as well. I did see a question in the chat about what is usual time frame outside of Vermont. I'm going to defer to Mary here. It's more along the lines of 90 days, give or take.
Yeah, we feel obligated in ROC USA Network to meet the time frame that a traditional commercial real estate transaction would take place, because we have to be able to tell community owners that selling to the residents is not going to take any longer. It's not going to be any harder for them. It's like any other transaction. So we're committed to a contract to closing 90 to 120 days. I think our average right now is, last I looked at it, it was somewhere around 98 days contract to closing. And of course, as Annik said, there's some negotiation and market development things that happen prior to actually signing the purchase contract. So I'm gonna, Annik, you ready? Because
Yep.
and Julie will take over to talk about the model.
Thank you.
So one of the things that is unique about ROC USA is that we do have organizing principles. Just as co-op developers have the International Co-op Alliance principles, and then also the Madison principles, which I know Cooperation Works adheres to. We have these organizing principles, and we've only found one other organization that has organizing principles. So I wanted to kind of go through those quickly. Build trust through empowerment. We're providing options and we don't impose our choices. You heard Annik say we're looking at exploration. They're exploring this, so we want them to make choices and we want to encourage that. We create a democratic framework right off first day that we're with them, and we show them that they can select their name and select different things like that. So they're making choices right off the bat democratically. We always respect the fiduciary responsibilities of the resident owner board of directors, and we support that they are relying on their experts to make those decisions. We train and provide templates, as Annik said. With all of the experience that we've had over 30 plus years working with co-ops, we have those templates to provide, and we help them adhere to the templates. In that is how the model is expressed. We support only entities that don't discriminate. We protect long-term interest of the community, the corporation as a community, and we always cultivate the long-term health by teaching respect and loyalty to the ROC and its governing documents. So every single CTAP, and we said certified technical assistance provider, we call them CTAPs, but they must sign this as a part of their agreement with ROC USA. And not only that, but there is also an attached document for the ROCs themselves. We call it the TA agreement, technical assistance agreement, in that the folks from the CTAP that go out to the communities and train and teach are called technical assistance providers. And they are agreeing to this, as well as the ROC, to these principles, so that you'll see it throughout the entire model and organization that they are adhering to these in each step. So I'm going to quote Margaret Bow in her presentation to us. She called this the triple play. ROC USA is the triple play of cooperative development. And I took that to heart. I like that. So we have the technical assistance, coaching and support pre-purchase. We have the pre and post-purchase financing in ROC Capital. In other words, we will give them a pre-development loan so they can explore. And then, yes, I see Margaret commenting. And then they have the technical assistance, coaching, and support post-purchase. So those are the three things that we offer as cooperative developers that that we believe is successful. In fact, I've had communities say to me, the post-purchase technical assistance, coaching, and support for the life of the loan is really what they believe creates success for us. So next slide. Another thing, I'm going to quote Margaret again, in that each facilitated conversion has two technical elements before the resident purchase. So you heard, I'm going to just say again what Annik said, is that we're doing a real estate purchase and we're also developing a co-op. And just to go back to the timelines, we have a short period of time to get a lot done. And that's why those organizing principles are very important. We have timelines that aren't getting any longer before the purchase, and we want to make sure that we're adhering to the principles of democracy and resident choice as we move along. And we're facilitating the entire process. Next slide. So let's go into limited equity. So a ROC is a limited equity cooperative. You'll hear about something called the joining fee if you ever have a contact with the cooperative. We want residents to join the cooperative and begin participating right away to participate in the democracy. So we have a joining fee. It's a small fee from $5 to $20. I've heard recently that some are $25. And so they are able to join and begin voting and having the decision-making right away. Some people do not join right away. We always encourage 100% participation, but even if they don't join, we encourage them to be part of that decision-making, even join a committee if you're a non-member and you want to just see what this is about. And more often than not, right before the purchase, most folks join. Some do not, a very small percentage don't. Prior to the resident purchase, they need to pay the full membership fee. The membership fee ranges from $100 to $1,000. This decision is made not only by the board of directors, but also that decision goes out when the members approve both their bylaws and their rules. So the rules of conduct of the community and also the bylaws contain that. So they have that decision-making power even before they're purchased, is to set up their governing documents. The members collectively own the land underneath. The homes and the homes they own, as we said earlier, they don't own their individual spaces. And remember, this membership fee is just a one-time membership fee, and it does not appreciate. We want to make it limited so that everyone has an opportunity to join and I see a lot of $100 membership fees. It's one time. When they leave the community, if they are not in debt to the community, they will receive their membership fee back. But we want to make sure that the appreciation that happens for the co-op happens in the home. When it was privately owned, everything went to the owner. We want to make sure that the homeowners realize a return on an investment in their homes. And I can tell you for sure in Oregon, I've seen people sell their homes for much more than what they paid for them initially in a private park. So they are seeing that return on their homes, and the appreciation is in the value of their home. Anyone purchasing a home in ROC must become a homeowner member after the resident purchase. So they must join the cooperative before they can, before they can become a homeowner in the community. So that's that slide. Go ahead, Mary. I wanted to show you, we said we have templates. This is the first template we even offer the cooperative is a joining fee agreement. Who are the joined members? Who will pay this small fee to begin participating in the cooperative? And then we're saying later on, if we go forward with this community, you will be paying more of the membership fee. So we have the membership fee agreement there too. And they also have the opportunity to do a subscription. So in other words, if they cannot pay the entire membership fee before the purchase, they have an opportunity to pay a little amount each month. And the board can say, well, by the end of 1 year's time, we need you to pay the entire membership fee. But we try to keep it low so that people have an opportunity to have a share in the cooperative.
Thanks, Julie.
Welcome.
So I'm just going to jump in on the sort of the business model side of this. And I know we're sort of running through things quick. So we'll definitely have time for questions at the end. But as Annik said, CDI is a cooperative development center that does more than just develop ROC co-ops, but it's a big part of what CDI does. And we actually have, I think there's 4 cooperative development centers are members of the ROC USA network. Sometimes we call them affiliates. As Julie said, certified technical assistance providers, CTAPs. We do have a certification process where we basically go through and underwrite the organization before having it join ROC USA Network. There is a network fee to join for new affiliates coming in. It's $10,000, a one-time fee. And for that, the CTAP is getting access to all of the intellectual property, access to joint systems and resources from the national office. So we have a national CRM system. We use Salesforce right now, and everyone in the network is using a national system, and we have a data person who helps support that and helps support them in any of their data needs. We have one cloud server, so all of the ROC documents, each resident owns communities documents are all housed in one place. We've got a number of opportunities for peer-to-peer sharing. We do convenings and trainings of the whole network 2 or 3 times a year. So we try to help make the expense of doing this work more sustainable by doing it at scale and by sharing those backroom expenses to a great degree. So, and the CTAPs themselves, they are providing the training and coaching, as Julie said, for pre-purchase and then post-purchase for the life of the loan. Most ROC USA Capital and most other lenders' loans are 10 years. So a new resident-owned community, a new mobile home park cooperative is getting 10 years of basically ongoing business consulting and coaching to help them really get a running start at owning that community. Just really quick, using some of our structural slides to give folks a sense. The mission is, and you'll note that it doesn't say ownership viable and successful, and to expand economic opportunities for homeowners in manufactured home communities. So our mission is really grounded in these particular communities and this particular group of homeowners across the country. We want folks to be able to buy their communities, and we've got to get to every state to do that. So the preserve and improve affordable communities, as Nick alluded to it with the capital improvement planning. So every ROC has a plan for what type of capital improvements they need to do, and then it's funded every month with their mortgage payment. They're putting money into a replacement reserve. Build individual assets. As Julie said, the goal of the model is to allow the homes to actually perform more like conventional homes for these homeowners. They've sort of been sidelined by the marketplace. As we know, most co-ops are coming in and trying to fix something that's not working in the marketplace, and this is a really good example of that. So build individual assets and then foster healthy, mutual, supportive communities and leaders. So we really want to provide that training and skill building so that community leaders don't need us in the future at some point. There's no need, they just need each other as we build out this network and this ROC association of peers supporting one another. The way we're structured is ROC USA is an LLC. It's a nonprofit organization with 4 nonprofit members, all dedicated to the one mission of making resident ownership possible. There's really those 2 things, the money and the know-how to first buy the community and then operate the community. So ROC USA Network was created as a wholly owned subsidiary to provide that know-how or technical assistance, as Julie said. And then ROC USA Capital is separately incorporated as a community development financial institution, a CDFI. I'm guessing a lot of folks are familiar with CDFIs, and ROC USA Capital is incorporated as a standard nonprofit community lender. All of us are, of course, dedicated to this same mission. Quick picture of the network. Right now, there's 272 ROCs, over 18,000 homes. You can think of those as 18,500 families who are all cooperative members. 20% of those have been preserved in the last 2 years alone. So we started with a big chunk of communities in New Hampshire because the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund was working on this for 30 years before ROC USA launched. But it's really the pace has picked up entirely since we've begun to bring on more TA providers and get into more states. ROC USA Capital is the dedicated lender. So ROC USA Capital will not lend to anything other than a resident-owned community or a group of homeowners who are purchasing their community or improving their community. They do refinance, but they will only lend to these cooperatives that are supported by one of our network certified TA providers. So it's a big part of their ability to attract and leverage capital is that they can say to other capital sources that we've got these dedicated business consultant coaches that are providing ongoing assistance. And I won't get into the whole structure of the loan itself, but we can talk more about that in the questions if people are interested. To fill out the actual structure here, as Julie mentioned, ROC USA Network signs a very substantial contract with each of the cooperative development centers and the other nonprofits who represent CTAP. So we call it the Network Agreement. And it basically lays out the fact that we are all dedicated to this one mission. As Julie said, we're all in agreement that we're going to do the work according to those principles, that we're only going to support this one limited equity cooperative model for resident-owned communities in order that we can have consistency and a standard. Again, the ability to attract capital is so importantly dependent upon some level of standard and what they consider to be quality control. And then how we align our actual business plans and our budgets to try and work in concert with one another. We do try to raise grants at the ROC USA level that get pushed down to network, and network tries to push those out on an annual basis as much as we can raise to our TA providers. The really two key things here. The ROC, the resident-owned communities themselves sign a TA contract with every CTAP. The CTAPs are paid at the time of acquisition with a closing fee, and then the ongoing technical assistance is paid for. If ROC USA Capital is the lender, they're paying what they call loan servicing fees to the CTAP to provide the same assistance that the ROCs are requiring under their TA agreement. And there's also some reporting requirements and loan covenant compliance assistance that's required of the ROCs. So that's, you know, one of my biggest attractions to this model when I came to ROC USA back in 2008 was I had been working with CDFIs and doing loans to co-ops, and nobody wanted to pay for TA in the cooperative housing system. The foundations didn't want to pay for it. The lenders didn't want to pay for it. Oh, you're nonprofits. You should be able to, you know, raise a grant for that. And this is really the first time that I've seen where the model pays for TA on an ongoing basis. So our board is the other key piece of this model, and that is these 4 nonprofit LLC members. Some of them I think people might recognize. Capital Impact Partners is part of the National Cooperative Bank system in the past. I know they're on their own now, but each of these LLC members, I won't go through the whole thing, appoint 2 directors each to ROC USA's board, and each of them have made significant equity investments in the startup of ROC USA as an LLC. $500,000 at startup in 2008, and they've continued to make additional equity investments in order to keep the enterprise rolling. And ROC USA is committed to providing dividends and have provided dividends, I want to say each of the last 3 quarters, back to those nonprofits for their use in the work that they're doing to support this one mission. NaveWorks America is a sponsor as opposed to an LLC investor. Some folks might know them. They also appoint 2 directors and have made equity investments. Our other important LLC member is ROC Association, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. And ROC Association is an association of every resident-owned community that's part of the network. And the country is divided into 3 regions. And on a rotating basis, though each region, the resident-owned community boards are voting for a ROC Association director to represent their region. And those 3 directors also sit on ROC USA's board of directors. So essentially act as the boss, if you will, of the organization itself, and participate in the strategic planning and budget decisions of the enterprise itself. So just, you know, everybody's always asking about impact, and across the ROC USA Capital portfolio, where we have the best data available initially, is that the resident-owned communities, the 272 resident-owned communities, are serving families, seniors. We have 16% are 55 plus communities. We have a lot of veterans that live in manufactured home communities, and a large proportion of disabled folks who have found a place in these neighborhoods. And we're absolutely having impact in some of the lowest income homeowners, really, in the country. So far, we feel like we're really reaching those families and individuals that need to secure their housing in such a way that they know they can stay there as long as they want. So with that, I want to introduce Bobbie and Carol. I feel like this is a great co-op intro. So let me just run this again.
We are homeowners. We are community owners.
We are parents, siblings, grandparents, and cousins.
We are neighbors. We foster mutual support. We adapt. We are resilient.
We remember to laugh.
We create opportunity.
We give back. We build community.
We invest in our future.
We believe in local control.
We are independent yet strengthened by others.
We are secure. We are affordable.
We believe in democracy. We never stop learning.
We are a ROC, a resident-owned community.
We believe in a better tomorrow.
For ourselves, for our neighbors, for future generations.
We are part of something bigger. We are part of ROC USA.
We are more than 10,000 homeowners strong, and we are growing.
We are people helping people. We are better together.
We are many communities.
We are one vision.
We are building a better world.
Now, together.
We are ROC Association. We are cooperatives.
So on that note, Carol and Bobbie, you guys can take it away.
Okay, I was going to talk a little bit about the ROC Association, but Mary covered a lot of what I was going to say. So I will just say that the ROC Association, as you heard, is made up of all of the members of the 270 plus ROC communities, and the membership for the association is free to all of us. We each have a director. They broke us up into 3 regions. Each region, as Mary told you, has a director that is elected on a rotating circle. One is New England, and that's Kim Capon. One is Mountain West and East, and that's Laurie Cahill. And the last is the East, Midwest, and South, which is Marjorie Gilsrud. They are on the board of directors for ROC USA, and they take what they learn at these board meetings and spread the word out to each of the association members. We have monthly calls, and they cover certain things like board burnout or how to get people to volunteer. And that's a great way of networking. We also have, thanks to ROC USA, our ROC Leadership Institute, which is where the directors told us about 2 years ago about their dream of wanting to set up 2 committees. One was policy and advocacy, and the other is outreach and education. And I will tell you a little bit about outreach and education, and Bobbie will take it from there. We on the outreach and education are committed to providing a peer-to-peer network to all potential, new and existing ROC communities and CTAPs. We feel that another layer of support beyond the comprehensive educational materials received and the startup and regular support from the technical advisors can be buffeted with support from peers who have been in their shoes. We provide knowledge on what it means to become a ROC what it means to be a ROC and how to become one. We come from different sized and types of communities and are eager to share our experiences. So I will hand it over to Bobbie, and she can tell you a little bit about what.
Oh, Bobbie, yeah, we forgot. We don't know if Bobbie's in. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I can. Can anyone else hear Bobbie?
I still can't hear Bobbie.
Bobbie, are you on your computer yet? Okay. Is there, can you mute your phone and just take a quick look and see if you see a place where there's like a little earth, a little globe that you click on, and then
Mary, it's 3 dots. It's on the phone. It's 3 dots on top, not at the bottom.
Okay, you give the instructions.
She has the option to choose English language and mute original audio. Do you have a globe?
Bobbie, can you click on? Are there 3 dots at the top?
Then, right. English and mute original audio, Mary.
English, yeah, choose English and mute original audio if there's that option on there.
Great. Okay, good. So let's continue.
Okay. I can. Can everyone else hear? Someone needs to say yes.
I still cannot hear Bobbie, I don't think.
Try one more time, Bobbie, just to speak.
She is getting the little green outline, which shows that she's the one talking, but I'm still not getting audio, but I can see that she's, it's like Alex, it wants to hear her, but it's not quite coming through for me.
Alex, did you mute your original audio?
Me? Yeah.
Yes. Then you should be able to hear her in English.
Let's try this now.
Oh,
how's that?
That's great. That's perfect.
Yep.
Great.
Hit the wrong button. I'm sorry about that.
Really, it takes a little bit of growing pains for everyone to get better connected. This is just the way of the world.
Right.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Thanks, Bobbie. Go ahead, go for it.
Okay, so as Carol kind of discussed the Outreach and Education Committee, we also do have the Policy and Advocacy Committee, which is also made up of ROC members. They are ones that set up the policy or go and maybe discuss the policies and advocacies of the ROCs in Washington, D.C. They also can discuss the policies and advocacies and everything else with the ROC Association in itself, coming up with some of our bylaws or some of our rules and guidelines throughout this whole process. And I honestly don't know too much about the committee, but both committees go right to the ROC Association with everything that we need to discuss and go forward with.
One of the big things I would just say that they're advocating for right now is at the federal level, this big infrastructure bill is making sure that manufactured home communities are included, because there's so many times that there's resources at the federal and local level that mobile home parks are not eligible for. They can't access them, and so that's the one thing I know about Bobbie is they're really working on advocating and sending letters and writing editorials and things to try to make sure that communities are included.
Yeah, and I do know like Minnesota in the Midwest here, they're trying to fight for first to right refusal, which will give community owners the right to purchase their park first or refuse whether they want to be purchased. I know more about what's going on in the Midwest being in Wisconsin than some of the other coasts.
That was my next question, Bobbie. Can you tell us where your cooperative is located?
Yes, sorry about that earlier. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin, so I'm in Wisconsin, up in the Midwest region, and NCF is our CTAP, and mostly in Minnesota and Wisconsin. We have 3 communities here in Wisconsin, one to the north and one that's on the other side of the state from us. So that is where I am located.
Thank you, Bobbie.
So that is ROC Association. I think we're ready to really close. I think the one thing that we're really insistent about and that people can attest to is once residents own their communities, they are investing in new roads, in replacing water lines, septic systems, new wells in rural areas, new electric. There's been over, and I won't have the right number, but it's somewhere over $253 million of investment by homeowners who live in these communities in improvements in their communities. So it's and we're finding that state and local elected officials are more and more in favor of seeing the residents purchase the communities because they know that they're going to put money and time into improving them. So, and that's what ROC Association's working towards.
Can I say one thing, Mary, about this particular slide that we didn't plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Horizon Homeowners Cooperative in McMinnville, Oregon. 12 years ago, there was a complete redevelopment. The community was basically a drive-through from one major road to another road, and people just drove through it, and they redeveloped it so that it would be more safe. There's speed bumps now that were implemented. You can see a speed bump in one of the slides there, and it's completely redeveloped and very quiet and safe community for that one redevelopment, Spanish speaking only community, and just a great group of cooperative leaders that are still in place today. So thanks.
So we would love to take questions. We have a little video but we don't need to show that if we can wait and close with that after, because we have less time than we had hoped to have for questions. So I will stop sharing and if there are things people would like to ask of anybody.
Well, there were a few questions that came in via the chat that we should maybe address before we launch into open Q&A. But thank you so much to our presenters. This was incredibly informative, and I know I really appreciate learning more about ROC USA and the model and how it operates at all levels. So thank you so much. I will launch into questions that are in the chat already or comments. And then we'll open it up for 5 or 10 minutes of Q&A before we close out with that video. So something that came in earlier was, should housing advocates try to get legislation passed to give residents notification rights or rights to purchase the community, or does this antagonize park owners?
So the answer to that is absolutely, housing advocates should do that. We, in the network, in ROC USA Network, there is, we try to stay in a role that enables us to reach out to community owners and motivate them to sell to their residents in much more of a market development, standard sales, commercial real estate way. And we know that if all of the 12 certified TA providers were out there waving the flag at the State House as well, that it just creates so much animosity that it would be very difficult for them to turn and have community owners sell to the residents. So we try to take a step back. As Bobbie was saying, it's something that the homeowners and the ROC leaders are really interested in supporting in their local areas, and it's absolutely important. And there's been more housing advocates getting into the business. There's MH Action is a fairly new organization that has really taken on the this issue. So
thanks so much. Another comment that came in was either now or following the presentation. So I guess following it. Could someone list the 6 states that require notice of MHP sale and thereby give the residents time to organize? I know that as of June 2020, Colorado, where I'm based, not me, the commenter, mandates a 3-month notice.
So the 6 states, I'll try to make them as I know them, and also just to recognize that not all the statutes are the same, and they don't all have the same strength, honestly. But the Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts statutes are very strong. The Colorado statute was based off of those, and the National Consumer Law Center has on its website a state-by-state analysis of what policies are in place to protect homeowners living in mobile home parks, and all of model statutes for things like what we call opportunity to purchase. We stay away from right of first refusal because it's a it just is a red flag for anybody who's into property rights in a very conservative way. So we talk about opportunity to purchase. So those are those 4 states, and then Oregon also has a notice statute and an opportunity to purchase, and they're working on improving it to give more time for the residents to make a choice. And the other place where residents are noticed, I am forgetting which one it is. There's a couple of states where they get notice only if the buyer is going to close the community. So like New York, I know that's the case, but by that time it's usually too late for the residents to be able to purchase. So, but there's definitely interest. Montana had a bill, as Bobbie said, Minnesota had a bill. There's a couple of states that are thinking about moving in this direction. And let me tell you, Colorado, Thistle Communities was the TA provider there for 2 years before that statute was passed, and they were able to do 3 communities. Since the regulations were done and they've started working, they've had like 16 notices of communities that were up for sale. They've got 3 that are closing with ROC USA Capital financing. One's tomorrow, one's next week, and there's another in the future. So it's really changed in Colorado right now.
Thank you for all that information. For the individual ROCs, is the membership per person or per household?
I can answer that. It is a per household membership, not a per person. So if there are 2 people in the home, they need to work their magic together before placing their vote. I have seen a few communities allow a household to half vote. It's complicated and not recommended. And it doesn't really make a difference, to be honest with you. It usually just washes each other out. But 1 member per household for voting rights.
Thank you. And does ROC have a seat on the board of the co-ops? Is there a clause in the bylaws and articles that prevents individual co-ops from demutualizing?
It's a really good question. So in most states, ROC does not have a seat on the board of the co-ops. In most states, the ROCs are incorporated under nonprofit mutual benefit statutes, which have a strong dissolution clause built into the incorporation, so that if the ROC ever got, let's say, offered by Walmart, to pay a couple $1 million, and every homeowner in that community was going to walk away with a couple $100,000, they wouldn't. Anything beyond the mortgage and the membership interests has to go to another nonprofit or another resident-owned community. So that it's basically no motivation, honestly, to demutualize. There's a few states where there wasn't a applicable statute that provided that. And so ROC USA is a Class B member that only has any vote on sale of the community, a change to the bylaws or a change to the articles that would remove that situation. So that's how we're dealing with the permanent affordability of the community and it remaining resident owned in perpetuity.
Thank you. That is all of the questions that were in the chat. So now we have a little bit of time for questions from folks who are here. And it's a small enough group that I think you could probably just unmute yourself and speak up, or if you're more comfortable, you can definitely put it in the chat. But I welcome you to just unmute and ask a question if you have any more. We'll let this awkward silence ride out for about another 2 seconds or so to give folks time to collect their thoughts.
I may quickly, while we're waiting. I'm from New Mexico. We do not have one of these in New Mexico. I will pass all this information along to the people I think can do something about it. I do have a quick question though. We also have another problem here. People have discovered New Mexico and housing prices are going up. Is there anything similar? This is outside your scope, I understand this, but do you know of anyone who does something similar with apartment complexes that are bought and sold to developers?
I don't know anyone similar. I do know that there have been similar statutes put in place, which require notice to the residents and the ability for the residents to form a co-op and purchase the community in similar hot housing markets. So Washington, D.C. had one of the first statutes that I knew of. And we, at the time, that was back in the 80s, and we were, CDFIs were providing financing for the existing residents to form a co-op and purchase the building. And I think that there are CDFIs out there that would finance such a thing. You know, real estate as collateral is actually a pretty easy thing to finance. And we all know why.
Mary, to follow up on the comment from New Mexico, a year ago, before COVID, North Country Cooperative Foundation in Minnesota was looking at apartment complexes in rural areas to possibly convert. I don't know where things stand post-COVID.
NCF, as an affiliate of ROC USA, one of the, we just did a round of business planning, and I know one of their initiatives that they'd like to take is to try and do more preservation of existing rural apartment buildings, because they're generally small, and they generally had 30-year or something like that. So that's it is on their plate, and I think if there's people that are interested, they should by all means contact the Cooperative Foundation, North Country Cooperative Foundation. Tori Clark is the new executive director there, and I personally think she's awesome.
And was that Wendy that made the comment? Was it Wendy from New Mexico?
Yes, it's Wendy.
So Wendy, I lived in Albuquerque for a total of 4 years, and there are so many manufactured home communities, as I'm sure you're aware of, in Sandia and beyond. And I know people who would be very interested in this.
Great. Yeah. Great, and thank you very much. We've just connected to my colleague Caitlin at the Co-op Catalyst, so we're going to get together on this.
Great.
Greetings.
So should I take these last few minutes and show the video if nobody has any other questions? It's basically a community leader introducing her home, because one of the things well, two things I should probably say. One is that the template bylaws in the ROC USA model include the international cooperative principles. So every ROC in the network has as a part of their bylaws the international cooperative principles, which we think are really important and a really important connection to the rest of the cooperative world. But also one of our other efforts is to destigmatize manufactured housing, because people have a lot of long-standing ideas about it. And we ran this contest for folks to create a video, and this was the winner of that contest. I'm going to try and do this. Is that all right, Alex? Is that a good next step? All right, let me see. Yeah, make sure that's still there. Okay.
Lori Westendorf, and I live in Morningstar Community. Come on in, let me show you my house. Kalispell's a great place to live because there's so much to do, especially if you enjoy the outdoors. There is such a sense of community here. And in our park, personally, we have people from all walks of life. Most of the people in Morningstar Community do not have another option for affordable homes. The majority of our community are elderly people who are on a fixed income. There's hardly any affordable housing here in the community. A typical 2 or 3 bedroom home in the valley costs $1,200 a month to rent, and here at Morningstar Community, it's $350 a month. Society itself really judges mobile homes, parks, and owners of mobile homes, and we experienced that ourselves when we were purchasing our home. We were going to throw a housewarming party, and I had friends say, why would you throw a housewarming party when you're just buying a trailer? It does hurt. But once people come into the community and they come into our house, they just fall in love with it, and by the time they leave, their attitude has changed completely. I'll take you back here to the master bedroom and bathroom. When we first moved into the park, we actually had gotten approved for a conventional loan to purchase a home, and we thought about it really hard and didn't want 30 years of payments. And in here is our master bath. My husband did the mosaic around the tub for me. So we opted to purchase this home and move into here. And we're very happy that we made the decision to move in here. And this is our living room and kitchen, and I love how open it is. Home ownership is important to me. When you're a renter, whether it be a park or a home, there's always that chance that that could be taken away from you. We really like our island. And this is my craft room. We have our laundry area, and then in here is our spare bathroom. I love living here. And this is my home. You know, whether you have a new mobile home or an old mobile home, it's their home. And they should be proud of that.
Thank you so much for sharing that inspirational and really heartwarming video. I think that really spells a lot out for us. So thank you so much. We are coming to the end of our webinar time. So I thank everyone who came out for this webinar, and many thanks to our presenters, and Nick, Julie, Mary, and Carol, and Bobbie. This is so informative and again, really inspirational. And I'm so happy we had the opportunity to learn more about ROC USA and your model and who you're working with. I'd also like to thank Margaret Bow, who has been instrumental in getting this series together, which I'll come back to in a moment. And I really want to thank the Interpreters Cooperative of Madison, who's provided the English-Spanish interpretation today. So thank you so much. It's such a valuable resource to be able to offer to the community. And just to reiterate, this is part of a series. We'll have a third one coming out in July, so stay tuned for that. And that should be on food co-op development process. And we'll have some more coming out later in the year. If you are interested in cooperative development, CW is also offering building blocks, which is the first of our art and science of cooperative development trainings 4 times this year. We have one starting on June 30th that's focusing kind of on the Western US, although registration's open for everyone. And then we have the training offered again, all online in August, September, and October, focusing on the Southern US, the Northeast, and the Midwest. So that is an opportunity to take a really deep dive into cooperative development if you're looking to incorporate these tools into your toolkit, or if you are, looking to be a cooperative developer yourself. I see several folks who've already been through the training on the call. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the webinar or about that training. And I will be sharing out the recording with all the participants soon. And I can perhaps, I'll check in with the presenters and see if there's any other contact info I can send out with that as well. But thank you so much to everybody, and I look forward to seeing you again in July.
Thanks so much.